guys, the verdict is in. I don't know. I'm probably in here by myself right now. Oh, I see some people saying I'm there. Well, say hi. Say hi. We just did the show about Pike County yesterday, and now the verdict is in. Just like that. I don't hear anything. Hang on. That's my channel. Hope I don't get a strike for streaming law and crime channels. So I'm going to remind everybody this is for educational purposes only, as you know, right? Everything we do here is educational. And we are friends. Sorry, I'm multitasking in the background. Never mind me. Never mind me. So they said at 3:25 they're going to read the verdict. I cannot hear anything. I see someone getting Kleenexes. Hello, Big T. Hello, Sherry. Shanny's in. Dan Davis. I see a couple of new names. Let's hit the sub button while we're waiting. I am on the edge of my seat. Candy and Sandy, yes, that rhymes, got me into this case, and I am obsessed. Obsessed. There's crazy, and then there's crazy. Hello, Sonia. Hello, Real Brenda. I've got my volume all the way up. I'm looking over here. Volume's up. Imagine being a part of the Roden family and seeing this unfold because the other two took a plea deal. Hello, Country Girl Life. The other two took a plea deal. So he's the one that had to face the music, if you know what I mean, face the jury, face the judge. And I would think it would be very hard to find a jury, but they did. Dan Davis said there is crazy, then there is me. That's right, Dan. Hello, Rock and Rolla. Where you been, my friend? I don't see George. There's his attorney. Just my opinion, I think the state fell flat on their case. So if you come to this brand new, George, he sings a pretty good tune. Picked on by his brother, who's a mass murderer, controlled by his mother, who is crazier than a shithouse rat. Life of crime. He knew nothing. He was sleeping, watching a fairy movie. I mean, you name it. Looked at Hannah as like she was a little sister. Didn't really know anything was going on. Some people that were in the courtroom said they could tell by the look on the jurors' faces. At some point, they felt like they were buying it. I don't know. Let's do a poll. Do you vote for guilty or innocent? Hi, Celeste. Celeste said I rushed in. So they're saying at 4:25 their time, Sonia time, Ohio time. Sonia says guilty. What do you think the jury will vote? What do you think the jury will vote? We know what we think, but what will the jury? Juries, you never know. I believe I never get my way. I think to be on a jury, you should have to take 8th grade civics again. I do. Mary Pike said, I just paused Casey Anthony to see this. Ooh, I forgot that was on. Hope it's worth it because the Casey Anthony, tell me all about it while we're waiting. This is, okay, cameraman is moving around a little bit. Mary says not guilty from the jury. When it's a fast deliberation, I get more nervous than when the state falls flat. And I think in this case, the state fell flat. I'm sorry. Here we go. Here comes George. I'm not hearing anything. I tell you what, I don't read lips and there's no closed caption. They better get some sound on. I didn't even know. Just me told me. And then Candy messaged me. Carla said, just our luck. Jury votes not guilty. I'm on pins and needles. I am. He still has that leather vest on. Court case said, I say they will say not guilty. Valerie, these real life sickos, they are. Court K votes for not guilty, but she thinks he's guilty. I'm leaning with you, Court K. Because I'm telling you, his defense was good. And the state, it's like they tripped over themselves the minute they said he was going to testify on his own behalf. When they said they were like, who? Who? George? George is? Well, we didn't prepare any questions for George because we didn't think he would have the nerve to testify on his own behalf, especially, his mama said he knew about it. His brother said that he was there and he froze up and didn't have the nerve to commit a murder. So he knew about it. He did very well testifying. He did. He did. Thank you, Valerie. Valerie said, I enjoyed your live earlier, by the way. Yep, if anybody is in Moscow, Idaho, run a DNA kit over to Jeremy. Sound would be nice. I tell you what, those attorneys are nervous too. Whew, if I'm nervous, they are. And they're getting paid by the state. Wait, hang on. Does he have pro bono attorneys or are these private paid? I think I missed that part. Court K, I was watching the last show but switched over here. I feel like the most popular person on the planet with Court K just saying that. Pro bono. Well, they knocked it out of the park, but everybody should have a good defense. Sorry, they should. What's your butt also, Mary? Man, it'd be nice if we could just if I could just hear some rustling in the background or something. Surely the sound man's working today. Here we go.
All right, we're on the record in State of Ohio plaintiff versus George Washington Wagner IV, case number 2018 CR 155. The defendant is present in court with his attorneys John Parker and Richard Nash. The state is represented by prosecuting attorney Rob Junk and special prosecuting attorneys Angela Canepa and Andrew Wilson. Also, special agent Brian Scheider of the Ohio BCI&I is also present. We've been informed that the jury that's been deliberating all day have reached a verdict. Is the state ready to have the jury brought up for announcement of the verdict?
We are, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yeah.
All right, bring that.
Can everybody hear okay? Because I have audio on my end. Dan said no audio. They're just rustling around in there. Preschool says no.
You may be seated. Yeah, there should be other. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes.
Would the foreman please, or foreperson, please hand the verdict forms to the bailiff here? I will now read each individual verdict. And after I've read each verdict form, I will ask the jury whether this is your verdict, and you should respond. If it is, you should stand up and make it known to the court if it is not. All do appear to have all 12 signatures on every place that we would expect the jury to sign their verdict. Verdict as to count one, it says, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count one of the indictment. It says, we, the jury, further find that the state of Ohio did prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, while committing the murder as charged in count one, have a firearm on or about his person or under his control, as alleged in count one, in specification one to count one. It says, we further find that the state of Ohio did prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant displayed the firearm, indicated that he possessed the firearm or used the firearm to facilitate the said offense of aggravated murder as charged in count one of the indictment, as alleged in specification two to count one. It says, we further find that the state of Ohio did prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the firearm the defendant had on or about his person or under his control while committing the offense of aggravated murder as charged in count one of the indictment was equipped with a firearm muffler or suppressor as alleged in specification 3 to count 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict? Now, I'm going to shortcut a little bit on the next one, and the next few, but verdict, this verdict form states, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. And on the specifications, all 3 specifications are also found to be true by the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict? As to count 3, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 3 of the indictment. All 3 specifications are also found with respect to count 3. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your vote? As to count 4, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 4 of the indictment. All 3 specifications are also found to be true by the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your vote?
Yes.
Verdict as to count 5, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 5 of the indictment. All 3 specifications as to count 5 are also found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict?
Yes.
As to count 6, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 6 of the indictment. All 3 specifications are also found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your vote?
Yes.
As to count 7, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 7 of the indictment. All 3 specifications as to count 7 are also found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Verdict as to count 8, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner, is guilty of aggravated murder as charged in count 8 of the indictment. All 3 specifications to count 8 are also found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict?
Yes.
As to count 9, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of conspiracy as charged in count 9 of the indictment. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict as to count 9?
Yes.
Verdict as to count 10, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated burglary as charged in count 10 of the indictment. And all 3 specifications as to count 10 are found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Verdict as to count 11, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated burglary as charged in count 11 of the indictment. All 3 specifications as to count 11 are also found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict as to count 11?
Yes.
Verdict as to count 12, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated burglary as charged in count 12 of the indictment. All 3 firearm specifications are found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict?
Yes.
As to count 13, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of aggravated burglary as charged in count 13 of the indictment, with all 3 specifications as to count 13 found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, is that your verdict as to count 13?
Yes.
As to count 14, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of unlawful possession of dangerous ordnance as charged in count 14 of the indictment, with the 2 specifications as to count 14 found to be true. Is that your verdict, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, with respect to count 14?
Yes.
Count 15, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 15 of the indictment. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury is at your verdict. Count 16, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 16 of the indictment. Is that your verdict, ladies and gentlemen, with respect to count 16?
Yes.
Count 17, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 17 of the indictment. Is that your verdict with respect to count 17? Count 18, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner, is guilty of forgery as charged in count 18 of the indictment. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that your verdict with respect to count 18? Verdict appealable as to count 19, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of unauthorized use of property as charged in count 19 of the indictment. Ladies and gentlemen, is that your verdict with respect to count 19? Verdict as to count 20, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications as charged in count 20 of the indictment. Ladies and gentlemen, is that your verdict as to count 20? Count 21, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner, is guilty of obstructing justice as charged in count 21 of the indictment. The additional findings are this has been the additional findings circle that the crime or crimes for which the defendant intended to hinder the apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another, or for which the defendant intended to assist another to benefit from the commission of, are aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, conspiracy, unlawful possession of dangerous ordnance, tampering with evidence, forgery, unauthorized use of property, interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications, or engaging in pattern of corrupt activity. Those have all been circled. This form does not circle. However, there's an indication here, we, the jury, further find that the state of Ohio did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that at least one of the crimes for which the defendant intended to hinder the apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another, or at least one of the crimes for which the defendant intended to assist another to benefit from the commission of, is a felony. So that is not circled. Was that an intentional thing? All right. So I don't know how
You
the,
mean that
I'm sorry.
it did or did not?
Yes.
Yeah,
Did-
that's unintentional.
I'm sorry.
Unintentional.
Okay. So there was an intention to circle one of those.
Correct.
All right. And it's not. So how do we need to send them back down to the jury room to do that?
Yeah.
We could have tried out here. Said, I'll read the last one. We'll probably ask the jury to go back to the jury room for the purposes of completing that form, but let me read the verdict as to count 22 first. The count 22 reads, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity as charged in count 22 of the indictment, and all three specifications as to count 22 are found to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, is that your verdict with respect to count 22? Yes. All right. Terry, do you want to have them go back down to the jury room? There's a spot on here where they are supposed to make a finding right there and express it on the jury form. Let's have them do that. And then see that they're brought immediately back up after they've done that. They should just stay in place. Please be seated. All right. Again, the verdict with respect to count 21 states, we, the jury, find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, George Washington Wagner IV, is guilty of obstructing justice as charged in count 21 of the indictment. As to the additional findings, it states, we, the jury, further find that the state of Ohio did prove beyond a reasonable doubt that at least one of the crimes for which the defendant intended to hinder the apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another, or at least one of the crimes for which the defendant intended to assist another to benefit from the commission of, is a felony. We, the jury, further find beyond a reasonable doubt that the following is or are the crime or crimes for which the defendant intended to hinder the apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another, or for which the defendant intended to assist another to benefit from the commission of. And circled there, and the instruction was to circle all that applies, circle all in the brackets below that conform to your findings. What they have circled is aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, conspiracy, unlawful possession of dangerous ordnance, tampering with evidence, forgery, unlawful use of property, interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications, and engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, is that your verdict as to count 21 in your findings? Does counsel for either the state or the defense wish to have the jury polled?
On behalf of the state, we do not. Yes.
Do I have, well, let me, I can't see your jury numbers. Maybe if you hold them up there for me. Let me ask juror number A194. Are these your verdicts and findings as announced by the court just now? As to all?
Yes.
Correct? All right. And A154, are these your jury, your verdict and findings as to all of the counts as just announced? Yes. A44, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes.
All right. And A243, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts just announced? Yes. And A210, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts just announced?
Yes.
A249, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes.
In the back, B20, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes.
A226, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes.
A105, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes.
A116, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced?
Yes, sir.
A124, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts as just announced? And,
A129.
all right, and juror A129, are these your verdicts and findings as to all counts just announced?
Yes.
All right, is defense counsel satisfied with the polling?
Thank you.
The court intends to set a sentencing hearing. I will have the court's assignment commissioner work with counsel for both sides. I would like it set, I think counsel felt like maybe it would take maybe a couple of weeks to organize a sentencing memorandum. So that would make it about December 14. We have the holidays coming up, so the parameters would be between December 14 and December, whatever the last work day is before Christmas. So in that period of time, the assignment commissioner will work with counsel in order to do that. At least 3 days before the sentencing hearing itself, I am directing counsel for each side to file a sentencing memorandum. It doesn't have to be, and probably should not be terribly lengthy, but it should cover whatever counsel feels the court should consider, and plus the recommendations of the state and the defense concerning sentencing. Is there anything further from counsel for the state or counsel for the defense at this time?
Your Honor, I know I made this comment to the court, but I would like an opportunity to speak with the jury. I know they don't have to, and I think the court is going to instruct them that way. So, but I just wanted to make that known. I don't know how else to make it known.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and this would include all of you, including the aldermen, the court is not permitted to comment concerning a verdict of the jury. So nothing that I say should indicate the court's agreement with or disagreement with the verdict. That the verdicts are strictly in the prerogative of in the jurisdiction, I guess, of the jury. The court cannot comment on that, and I'm not commenting on that. However, your attentiveness and your dedication to duty have been noticed and are greatly appreciated by the court. I want to state something here for you, though, so that I make sure everybody understands this. You may understand it anyway. You are now released from the admonition not to discuss this case. You may discuss your verdict and your deliberations and your experiences as a juror with others, but you are not required to do that. You must decide for yourself whether or not you will discuss such matters. In the event, in any event, I guess I should say, whether you discuss them or not with others, you should be careful concerning what you say, whether it's to family members or discussing it with other people. You should make no statement, verbal or writing, unless you are sure that it is complete and correct. You should make no statement that you would not be willing to make under oath in the presence of the court or other jurors, or in the presence of the litigants and their respective counsel. In other words, don't just speak off the cuff and say something that you might later regret that you had said. If your statements are to the press, remember your name and your statement may appear in print. Will use, or probably will use, only the part that the one reporting considers sufficiently newsworthy or challenging. But just remember that. Now, as jurors, you've served as public officers, really, of the court. When you're discharged, which will be immediately, and I leave the bench, your services are completed. And you'll be receiving some compensation, not nearly enough for the work that you did, but you'll be receiving that, and it will be mailed to you. It's my understanding we're mailing that compensation to you, or the county. And you have all the rights of private citizens, all right? It's the lawyer's duty to protect those rights and to protect your desire not to talk about this case, if that's your choice, that's your decision. It is improper and unethical for a lawyer or anyone else to harass, entice, or exert improper influence to you for the purpose of getting you to talk about the case. It is your individual choice whether you talk about the case. Does counsel for the state or counsel for the defense have anything further?
No, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are discharged. According to this trial is adjourned.
All right, what do you guys think? I'm gonna turn their volume down. Woo! I feel like I just watched a Super Bowl. Goodness. I was nervous on that one. There was a few times, I mean, just watching the clips, of course, you know, when they do their clips and their sound bites. When they do their clips and their sound bites, it's kind of, well, you know, the way they want to spin it. But what I saw live, I was getting a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I felt like the state fell flat. Look what I get for doubting, because they obviously drove it home. The jury was not out too long. The jury was not out too long at all. They came back fast. Whew. Angela and Jake, with their plea deals and the way that his defense kept driving it home. I mean, even when they said, you got the plea of the century. You don't have to worry about the death penalty. And they kept bringing that up over and over. I really thought that was going to hit home with the jury, that they could be testifying against him because of the deal that they made with the state. I wasn't sure. I was getting a little uneasy, especially when he took the stand. That definitely got a response. Barb Murray said wiretap said it all. Yep. That definitely helped seal his fate, I would say. Bluebonnet said the trial's been quite a ride. You got that right. How long do you think he'll get? Oh, I don't think he'll ever see the light of day. Unless they sentence him concurrently, but I mean, he got murder. I don't think he'll ever see the light of day. I mean, they could give him 100 years. Some of these people, they get sentenced to like 700 years plus. I mean, it's your life. That's it. You're gone. You're done. I don't know. How long do you guys think he'll get? He's definitely going to get life without parole. That's what I'm thinking too. Nothing. He can kiss that leather vest goodbye. He's never, ever gonna see anything. Nope. A few people that came in weren't quite sure what was going on. So I'm just going to play a recap from like the way back. If you guys have time, hang on.
Good evening. They were all
This happened in 2016, Pitbull Mom.
shot in the head, execution style. 8 members of the same extended family living in... Good evening. They were all shot in the head, execution style. 8 members of the same extended family living in a rural part of southern Ohio. We're hearing for the first time what it was like on 911 recordings of relatives who called for help. Tonight, a manhunt goes on. A reward has been offered, and officials warn people to be cautious with a killer or killers still on the loose. A big question tonight, what led to such a rampage? It's where we begin in Ohio with our report from Gabe Gutierrez.
Man, gotta tell me what's going on. There's blood all over the house.
The first panic call for help.
My brother-in-law's in the bedroom, and I beat the hell out of him.
Shattered rural Pike County, Ohio, just before 8 a.m. Friday.
It's all this stuff that's on the news. I just found my cousin with a gunshot wound.
Okay, so is she alive?
No.
The grisly discovery launched an all-out manhunt. Sheriff's deputies would soon find 8 relatives shot dead in 4 separate homes, only miles apart. The victims ranged in age from 16 to 44. The family identified as the Rodens. The baby's grandmother was Dana Roden, a nurse's aide at a local nursing home. Some discovered still in bed, investigators say, suggesting they were shot execution style while they were sleeping.
It looks like they're dead. You think they're both dead? I think they're both dead.
Just as chilling, who survived? 3 children, a 3-year-old, a 6-month-old, and a newborn just 4 days old, found in the same room as his dead mother. Authorities say none of the victims committed suicide, so they're warning residents that at least one killer is on the loose, considered armed and dangerous.
We do not know whether we're talking about one individual or 2 or 3 or more. We simply do not know that at this point.
The family, identified as the Rodens, well known in Pike County, population less than 30,000. Today, a spokesperson reading a statement on their behalf, asking for privacy.
The Roden family would like to thank everyone for all the outpouring of prayers and support for their family. They ask that you to continue to keep them in your prayers.
Today, the extended family is shaken.
It's hard.
Pastor Phil Fulton knew some of the victims.
Very close knit family that cared for one another, that worked hard.
Tonight, a $25,000 award has just been posted for any information leading to an arrest, as this horrifying mystery in the Midwest deepens.
Perhaps most puzzling of all, what was the motive? Well, tonight, sheriff's deputies here aren't saying. They've interviewed dozens of people so far, but have no suspects. Jose?
Now, that was in 2016, and the motive was kind of all over the place. They thought it might have been some shady businesses the Roden family was in. But it turned out, we just saw the verdict on one, it was the work of the Wagner family. They didn't realize this for a couple of years later. If you go left to right, if you're looking at your phone, your screen, or whatever, that's Billy, the dad, Angela, the mom, who's really, in my opinion, the main mastermind, George, who was just found guilty, and Jake. Jake took a plea deal. Angela took a plea deal. Jake and Billy, according to his testimony, Jake, are the murderers. Jake killed 5. His dad, Billy, killed 3. Jake says George was there, but he froze up. George says he wasn't even there. Doesn't matter what George says, because the jury didn't believe George. Did not believe George. And don't get it twisted on these plea deals, because Angela, she gets 30 years. So, I mean, she's 47 now. If she lives to 77, she'll get out at 77. She thinks she's going to see her grandkids and everything. She's crazy. Jake will never see the light of day. The most entertainment Jake will get is, I guess, going to trial to testify against family members and shit. That's about all he gets to do. He's in jail for the rest of his life. He's not going anywhere. And this Ohio jury was not screwing around. They were not, even though a lot of people didn't like the prosecution, felt like they fell flat, they weren't that convincing. They didn't need the razzle dazzle. They didn't need all the courtroom theatrics. They were there for business. They obviously took in what was important. And their deliberation was short and sweet, because they came right out and said, guilty. Guilty, Your Honor. I wonder what Angela's reaction is going to be when the news makes it to her that she finds out that yet 2 of her sons are going to be in jail for the rest of their lives. 2 of her sons for the rest of their lives. And they wiped out a whole family. 8 people. Hannah Roden was in bed. Jake, the father of a child they have together, supposedly all of this was over their child together. I'm not really buying that, but anyway. She has a 4-day-old baby that was in bed with her. Killed execution style. And these were overkills. You look on the left of your screen. That's her mother, Dana. Her father, Christopher. Dana was on her phone. They could see the light on her face. Killed in her bed. In the middle, there's Frankie and his fiancée, Hannah. On the bottom, Christopher was only 16. Then there's Kenneth. Then there's Gary. Whole family. Whole blood. Just wiped out. Wiped out. The scene was chaotic. Look at that. 4 different crime scenes. 4 different crime scenes. Last I heard, this was the most expensive. And I understand that it seems very crass to bring up money. But when you think, money doesn't grow on trees, even with the government. Well, state government, if you know what I mean. Not talking about the federal government. Very expensive to have to investigate this. Totally senseless. Totally senseless. And I still think that Angela stirred all this up over just really in some regards, I think just over not getting her way. Over Hannah just saying, "No, you're not getting full custody of my child. They are evil. I am not buying it." I think there's way more to it. Way more to it. This clip, hang on, tells us a little bit more. Hang on. Actually, a lot more. Okay, part of that was wrong. It said that Jake, okay, because Jake also got charges. Jake is on the right-hand side of the screen. He looks kind of young and innocent in this picture, right? Well, it said that Jake started a relationship with Hannah when she was 15. No, my friends, she was 13. There's a picture of Jake and Hannah going to a dance. She was 13. She became pregnant with their child at 15. He wanted to marry her. Her father said not till she's 18. They have tattooed wedding rings on their fingers and everything like that. It's the story. This family is so evil. This family is so evil, and I love what Slim said. This is not really about child custody. He said obsession with child custody. I really think this boiled down to Angela being told no, because she stirred up a hornet's nest. She had Billy, her husband, George, because George knew about this, and Jake. She had them all convinced, and this is through a Facebook, some sort of Facebook comments and stuff, that Hannah's new guy was either SAing their little girl or would someday. And she went to Walmart and bought like these old men Velcro type shoes that Billy and Jake definitely had on at the crime scene, because they confronted her with the shoes, the receipt, her ratchet ass walking in and out of the Walmart buying the shoes. She bought things to make silencers. They confronted her with everything. They said that, of course, the ballistics, all of it came back. They wiretapped the family, and she tried to deny all of it. Finally, she said, I know what you're doing here. She said, I quit. I'm out. I'm getting an attorney. There was even a discussion, the family sitting around as if they're discussing like what you're going to have on Sunday night for dinner, or what should we do for Christmas. They're all sitting around saying, well, we got to get mom the best attorney, because she's the one that takes care of the kids. Don't want to disrupt the kids' schedule, so we got to get mom the best attorney. The best attorney. Wow. Even the best attorney, the best legal in Ohio couldn't get any of them out of this, because it was flat out carnage. And before I shut it down, if you listen to Angela's half brother, he kind of encapsulates all of the dysfunction and how she controls all of these people in her family.
Can you tell us the kind of dynamics between your sister Angela and her two sons, Jake and George? How would you describe that relationship?
On her part, controlling is all get out.
Okay. Tell me about that. What do you mean by controlling as all get out?
She tell them to jump, they jump. I think that's the politest way I can put that.
And can you tell us what her relationship was like with Billy?
Okay, give me a minute. Dysfunctional? Sound about right? Give or take? Somewhere in there?
And why do you say that?
Well, if you know Billy, you pretty much know why he was dysfunctional.
Okay. And so go ahead and tell me about that. Tell me about your observations or your experience with Billy.
He's about as useless as tits on a bore hole.
Okay.
That's all he's got to say about that. She says jump. Those boys will do it. Like I was saying in the show yesterday about Pike County, I said, moms kind of know, like we know how to just talk until we run out of breath. Can you take the trash out? Can you take the trash out? Can you take the trash out? Before you know it, you're taking the trash out yourself, because everything falls on deaf ears. Not with Angela. Oh, no. Oh, no. She says fire, they build a bomb. Mind you, this was just all over a bunch of stuff that she misconstrued to them. She knew what was really going on. And next thing you know, they're watching Boondock Saints Part 2 and planning a mass murder and annihilating a whole family. And they did it. They got past the dogs, they got past the cameras, and they were overkills. I mean, I'm not saying there's ever a nice way to kill, but you get what I'm saying. All right, so for tomorrow, I'm not quite sure if we're going to have a 9 a.m. show, we might. I might have something put together. I'm not sure. I got sidetracked this afternoon. We are for sure having a show at 1:30 Central Time. Let me look at that again. 1:30 Central Time. I have to look. I might be doing this wrong. There is an update, a big update, and a press conference for Little Monkey Vaughn. So it's 2:00 their time. Hell, I might be in here early. Either way, set your reminder. Make sure you're subbed. A lot of people aren't subbed. They just get the recommendation, which, hey, YouTube's doing something right. At least they're recommending stuff. So I'll check on the time. But there's definitely a show tomorrow afternoon because we have a big update. I'm hearing, I don't know, for Little Monkey Vaughn, Michael Vaughn. I don't know about tomorrow morning, but I do know for sure tomorrow afternoon. But in the meantime, you guys, thank you so much for coming in here, watching the verdict. I was on pins and needles. Like I said, I was almost about to break a sweat. It was like watching the Super Bowl. It was like watching the damn Super Bowl. I was like, what's going to happen? Amazing when you watch justice unfold right in front of your eyes. It really is. It's something else. 12 people sat down together and came up with a decision, a unanimous decision. That's amazing in itself. All right, guys, I'll see you back here tomorrow. I don't know about 9 a.m., but I do know for sure tomorrow afternoon for little Michael Vaughn. You guys are awesome. You are absolutely the best. I'm not just saying that. Trust me. See you guys later.